The pastor was like, "You hear that? You're filthy. You're dirty. You're nothing but dirty rags." And so he's holding the, it was so dramatic. So he's holding the Bible, shaking it. And I look around and everybody's like, "Yes, pastor. Amen. Amen, pastor." And I'm like, hey y'all, what's up? It's good to see you again. I wanted to answer the question, why me? Why this space? Why this conversation? The truth is, this space was made for somebody who has been in the valley of, you want to be spiritually connected, but you're not quite sure what it all means. I'm sure there's plenty of us who grew up in what I like to call a fire and brimstone space. So I remember, one of the most vivid memories I have from growing up is one time I was probably, there's many stories, but that I remember most, I was probably maybe 11 or 12, and I was sitting in the congregation with my mom. She was next to me. And the pastor was reciting one of the passages in the Bible that says, "All of us have become like one who is unclean, and all of our righteous acts are like filthy rags." And so the pastor was like, "You hear that? You're filthy. You're dirty. You're nothing but dirty rags." And so he's holding the, it was so dramatic. So he's holding the Bible, shaking it. And I look around and everybody's like, "Yes, pastor. Amen. Amen, pastor." And I'm like, I ain't dirty. I'm clean. Like I took a shower this morning. So I never quite understood the philosophy that we were just born into sin, that we were just bad, right? Because I genuinely felt like I was a good person even at 12. One of the things that used to always drive me nuts is, and I talked to my sisters about this too, the pastors, whenever they would get up and talk, they would talk about how, the world is different. But back in my day, I was out there in them streets. But y'all young folk don't do that no more. And we'd be like, man, what is this, right? Y'all lived y'all life, whatever that looks like. But for us, we need to be on a straight and narrow. We need to pray for something different. That was what was preached. And so, as a kid, I remember praying vividly for wisdom. That was what I was praying for. It wasn't for a new bike. It wasn't for, new rollerblades, which was the thing back then. It was like I was praying for wisdom. And if you ever heard Oprah say this, she prayed for courage. And it was the most challenging year she had ever experienced in her life. She had gone through betrayal, and she said she will never pray for courage again, right? I can definitely co-sign on that because when I prayed for wisdom, even as a kid, I was like experiencing opportunities to grow in wisdom. It's not like, God just opens up your brain and then poof, wisdom manifests itself. You actually get opportunities for that wisdom to expand within you. And the reality is it's already there. And so that's what my impetus for creating this space was for, is for somebody who is like wanting a conversation, wanting to be nudged in the direction that says, God is everywhere. God is in us. God manifests God's self in all the spiritual walks that exist, right? That divine love doesn't need our fancy deliberations or fancy language. In fact, us being on this path is one of just beauty and co-creation. Eric Butterworth, he's a student of metaphysics, says that, we're not praying to some mean guy up in the sky who decides whether or not his benevolence is going to help us. The reality is that loving presence is already inside of us. We have access to it. There's a book by Benjamin, Yes, by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, 10x is easier than 2x. He says that our future self actually determines our present self, and our present self determines our past self. In other words, our present self determines whether or not that experience we went through as a kid or that experience we went through when we had that divorce or heartbreak, our present state determines if that experience was a positive one or a negative one, right? That how we are today, let's say somebody has moved through therapy, somebody has moved through some kind of healing journey, and they see, oh, that experience I went through actually made me stronger. That experience I went through brought me closer to my family, or whatever the thing might be, right? That present condition determines what that past was. And in the same way, Dr. Benjamin Hardy says that your future self determines what your present is. We got to operate from our future self. Whatever like you see yourself doing, whether it's like, you know, owning a Fortune 500 company, whether it's like being a dynamic leader, speaker, whatever, you gotta operate from that vantage point, because that clarity is going to determine what action steps you take today. That kind of immediate access point is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of our connection to divine intelligence, divine presence, right? That divine love. It's instant, it's immediate, it's already there. I want to end with Michael Beckwith. You know, he is somebody I listen to often. Almost every day I'm listening to one of either his podcasts, Take Back Your Mind podcast, check it out, or I'm listening to a talk that he does at the Agape Spiritual Center in LA. What he often talks about is relinquishing to divine mind. So when we do the work of getting spiritually connected, and really getting spiritually connected is just connecting with which is already there. God doesn't have to be one in which we feel disconnected. It's actually one in which, you know, we're here. So this space was designed with you in mind, for us to be in community, for us to be in conversation, to support each other, and to know that this path has a lot of different iterations. It has a lot of different ways in which it appears. And so as long as you're feeling fed, God is going to connect to you and give you guidance. Once we do the work of releasing, we can actually surrender to the creative ideas that come through divine mind. One of those ideas was this space. What's fun about creative ideas is you don't really know where it's headed. When you surrender to divine idea, there's no telling where you're going, but you still got to make plans, right? Check out this video where I talk about making plans and what is the spiritual surrender necessary to be able to get to your highest good, whatever it is that you desire. All right, y'all, it's good connecting. I'll see you on the other side. Peace.